I think the problem with it is that if we look at the reason why we're having this kind of oil price impact, what it means is that the economy is slowing. If you look at the increased demand for oil use year on year, it's getting slower and slower. This is a trend that's been going on for a few years.
On the demand side, right?
Exactly. So because of that, it means economic activity is lower. So although people see falling oil prices as potentially being a positive, for a country like Thailand, if lower oil price helps it because we still import so much oil into Thailand, but if the reason that the price is falling is because economic activity is slowing down anyway, then it's a bad reason for a good thing to happen, maybe. Yeah. So we actually see it as being a symptom of slower growth, lower economic activity. It means, yes, maybe it reduces costs in Thailand, but it's a real indication that this is a very bad global economy for Thailand to go and try and export into. And, I think we'd rather see a more active global economy. We'd rather see growth in exports. It makes it very difficult. The one thing that you could say from a local market point of view is it's probably a very, very good time to be embarking on big infrastructure projects. So maybe in that case, good timing, yes. Right? So if the oil price stays low for a year, maybe it helps to support the infrastructure plans. Almost everywhere, I think. If I have to choose one, I think the biggest bubble is America. I think it's the place that's benefited most from the stimulus policies. But I also think Japan is a big worry too. And I think in both of these places, they haven't cleaned house, they haven't dealt with all the debt problems, and still the amount of debt they have, private debt they have, is a big headwind to recovery. So I think although initially we might see more volatility in emerging markets, and we might see the emerging equity markets suffer more, and we might see weakness in emerging market currencies. I think that if we look over a medium to longer term, I've got much more confidence in emerging markets than I have in developed markets. So we might take the pain here first, we might take more of the pain, but we'll recover much quicker. Whereas if we look at the developed markets, I think they have a lot of headaches for a long time to come. And I think, people talk about America is now starting to turn Japanese, and we think that's happening. We think they're maybe where Japan was in 1989, and they're just going down the same path. It's a situation that they try to manage, but they're trying to manage something that's unmanageable. And they need to write off all the bad debts that they've been hiding for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And if they do that, there's a lot of good things that have happened in China too, but there's a lot of big hurdles that they need to get over. I think that maybe the biggest bust, the biggest collapse we might see could easily be China. We'd expect at some point, and we don't know if it's next year, the year after, but we expect a really hard landing in China, and we think that's part of a big global correction, maybe even a big global collapse, maybe even a depression. We think that will happen, but we think it needs to happen, it's necessary. The policymakers will delay this as long as they possibly can, whether they're Chinese policymakers, American policymakers, they're going to keep putting this off. So all the time they can avoid it, then it means equity markets, property markets might still find a way to keep going up. But eventually I think we face a very big reset, a very big correction.